and welcome to the sixth episode of the NatSci Chronicles, the official podcast for the College of Natural Science at Michigan State University. My name is Jesse Early, and I'm the digital media manager for the college and the host for this podcast. The NatSci Chronicles is a podcast dedicated to keeping you up to date on all the latest happenings in the world of NatSci. In this episode, I'll be sitting down with the 2021 NatSci Alumni Award winners. The winners include Shannon Morey, recipient of the Recent Alumni Award, Dr. Patrick Luculay, recipient of the Outstanding Alumni Award, and Shannon Manning, recipient of the Meritorious Faculty Award. So who are these fantastic individuals and what do these awards mean to them? Stay tuned to find out. So I am joined by the MSU College of Natural Science 2021 Recent Alumni Award winner, Shannon Morey. Shannon, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
Could you introduce yourself to our NatSci audience?
Yeah, so I grew up in Michigan, in the thumb of Michigan, and I spent my entire life there and then was really excited to go to Michigan State University for my undergrad. And so I spent 4 years at MSU working in a BS in chemistry, and I graduated in 2010. And then I moved out to the East Coast where I still am for graduate school. And in 2013, graduated from MIT with a master's in chemistry, and then kind of transitioned into education. And so for the last, I guess, 8 years now, I've been working in the education field, mostly as a classroom teacher.
Can you tell us about your career path since receiving your degree in chemistry from MSU? And has there been any surprising turning points so far in your career?
Yeah, for sure. So definitely when I was at MSU, I was a very focused student, and a lot of people told me like, oh, you're really good at science. You should go to graduate school in science. So that's what I did. Applied to a bunch of programs, and I got to MIT and was like very excited to come out here. And then I realized like, man, this research thing is really not what I want to do. I like being a lot more with like people and talking to kids and working on this other side of things than being in the lab. And I had some amazing colleagues that I've done research with, both at MSU and at MIT. But it just became clear to me that that was not how I wanted to spend the rest of my life. So that was a big turning point, was kind of realizing that, and then switching to moving into education. And so I master's and worked for a nonprofit for about a year called Science from Scientists. And so I was their director of education. And then I transitioned into classroom teaching, which I never imagined I would be, but I actually had a lot of things at MSU that set me up well for that career, because I'd done a lot of education outreach. I'd been in schools a lot through my work in a program called Science Theater. And, I think it was really my time at MSU that helped me realize that I was in education, but I just had such the push to go into research that it took me a little bit longer than perhaps it should have to figure that out. And so, yeah, since then, I've been working in the classroom.
So you were selected as the 2021 Recent Alumni Award winner. What does winning that award mean to you?
One, I think it's an amazing opportunity to kind of reconnect to the university that I love so much. I've been out in the East Coast for over 10 years now, which is kind of bonkers. And, since I've been here, I've had a lot of opportunities to connect to alumni in the area, and that's been awesome. I think the last year, it's been much harder to do that. And so I'm really, cherishing this chance to rediscover a lot of things that MSU has to offer. And it also is just, I feel very privileged and, grateful for receiving this award. And, I think it shows that the ability to like build on all of the supports and structures and ideas and kind of all of these skills that MSU gave me, and that I've taken those and made an impact, even perhaps a small one, but still an impact on the world. And so that feels really good.
Can you talk a little bit about the nonprofit organizations you started and how your time here at MSU helped you be successful with those?
Yeah, so while I was in grad school, I started kind of an organization called ChemBites, which helped kind of take current research and distill it down to a level that undergraduate students could understand. And through that, actually working with that, and then kind of other Bites sites, kind of founders, we started an organization called ComSciCon. And ComSciCon is a graduate student run organization focused on helping graduate students become better science communicators. And it's that in particular has grown immensely and been incredibly successful. We have a bunch of kind of satellite organizations that work on the local level, and every single year since 2013 we've been holding a national workshop, bringing together kind of the rising stars of science communication who are current graduate students to share ideas. And that's just been an incredible organization to work with. Kind of a spin-off from that is Bite Size. So that's the one that I'm most involved in still. ComSciCon, like I said, is graduate student run, and I am a long time away from graduate school at this point. And so I still, my husband and especially, and I like still do a little bit of the administrative work to take some of the load off the graduate students. But we really, really wanted to have it, maintained to be that graduate student run focus. Because when you're in graduate school, you know what other graduate students need. But Bite Size now is kind of one of my little babies. And I'm working with a couple of really awesome people on that. And what that does is take current scientific research articles and distill it down to a level for high school students to understand and to really develop curriculum around it. So it's not just the article, but it's an entire lesson plan that teachers can use. And being, a teacher in the classroom, I have a good sense of kind of what teachers can use. And, we really try to avoid a lot of pitfalls that other organizations can come into in terms of just being overcomplicated, too long, not standards aligned, not giving teachers kind of enough information. And so I'm really proud of what we've accomplished there in terms of our lesson plans, and really making current scientific research accessible to students and really empowering teachers and researchers to bring current scientific research into the classroom.
Very cool. Do you have any advice you would give to current NatSci students to make the most of their time while at MSU?
I would say just get involved. Absolutely, get involved in things. That's one of the things that I, really miss about undergrad is just all of those, opportunities to talk to people who are excited about anything. And that's not to say that it's impossible to do, but it's definitely harder in grad school when the focus was so much on research, and harder when you're in your career because then you get into these little bubbles. But as an undergrad, you just have the opportunity to meet so many different people and try out so many different things. And I think one of the organizations that I mentioned earlier, Science Theater, had a profound effect on my future career and kind of my conception of myself and what I wanted to do with my life. And, if I hadn't gone to that first meeting or hadn't gone to participation that, first couple days as a freshman, then, who knows how my life would be different.
Right. Yep. So in closing, what does it mean to you to be a Spartan?
I think for me to be a Spartan is just to try to make the world a better place. I think that's one thing that always rang true for me at MSU. Like I said, I just loved being around the people who really cared about making an impact, a positive one on the world. And there's, at MSU, there's just kind of unlimited opportunities to do that in just about any field you can think of. And I think that creativity and that spirit is what really makes a Spartan a Spartan.
Well, it's been great talking with you today, Shannon. Congratulations on the award, and thank you for joining me on today's show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks again to Shannon for joining me on the podcast. Next up, my interview with Dr. Patrick Luculay. I am joined by the MSU College of Natural Science 2021 Outstanding Alumni Award winner, Dr. Patrick Luculay. Dr. Patrick, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Misty. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Could you introduce yourself to our NatSci audience?
Yes, absolutely. So it's a pleasure to actually have this opportunity to talk to my NatSci audience. Let me start with a brief introduction. My name is Patrick Luculay. I was born in Sierra Leone, immigrated to the United States many years ago. and currently a dual citizen of Sierra Leone and the United States. I am a pharmaceutical scientist with a background in analytical chemistry, and currently I'm the president of Technology Solutions for Global Health, which is a boutique consulting firm based in Accra to provide technical support to pharmaceutical industry in Africa to increase their compliance with global standards and make them more competitive globally. So that's what I spend my time doing these days.
Can you tell us about your career path since receiving your PhD in chemistry from MSU? Were there any surprising turning points?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. So there are no surprising turns in my career, but there were some very exciting transitions, which I'll go through briefly. So I started my career after leaving MSU in the pharmaceutical industry in the United States. So I obviously, when I was in grad school, I wasn't sure then whether I wanted to go into industry or to stay in academia. And this is a question that most grad students will ask themselves because it's a pretty clear, I guess, transition or direction that you take. I chose to go to industry because I was very curious and I was yearning to see how I can apply my background in chemistry to solve real world problems. That was intriguing to me and very exciting to see how I could put my knowledge gained in grad school to actually solving real world problems. So I chose to enter industry. The first company I worked for was Wyeth Pharmaceutical based in upstate New York, where I served as bench chemist, supporting drug discovery and development of various drugs. And just an anecdote, I'm excited to hear that one of the drugs we worked on, which was an oncology drug, is now actually on the market, and it's taking that long. So after Wyeth, I went to work for Pfizer, where I was senior principal scientist and group leader of analytical chemistry group that I led there in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And as you know, Ann Arbor is an enemy territory for MSU, our ACT rivals, but I survived. I survived the experience working in Ann Arbor. And once in a while, I'll take trips to campus in East Lansing. So that was really some exciting moments for me. From Pfizer, I joined United States Pharmacopeia in Maryland because I saw an opportunity there to head up a global public health program, which was to promote drug quality in developing countries. And as somebody who came from a developing country and haven't achieved academic excellence in a lot of ways within the pharma space, I saw this as an opportunity to give back to a developing country, heading a program that was funded by United States Agency for International Development and implemented by United States Pharmacopeia to go into the developing countries and build up systems and capabilities to protect them from counterfeit medicine. So I spent the last about 10 years promoting drug quality in Southeast Asia, in Latin America, and in Africa. And I was leading this program for over 35 countries and helping them build drug regulatory systems and also supporting the local pharmaceutical industry there to make quality assured medicines, which, as you all know, is a challenge in several parts of the world. And really proud to have built a good team supporting these countries so that they can build good infrastructure for detecting poor quality medicines and for the manufacture of quality assured medicine. So that's the path. And now finally, I have established my own consulting firm based in Ghana, continuing this work, which for me really is a vocation to be able to strengthen Africa to develop their pharmaceutical industry and become very competitive globally, supply their local markets as well as supply the world with good quality medicine. So that's where we are at the moment.
You do some extensive community work. What has taken you to Ghana?
So coming to Ghana was kind of fortuitous. When I was at USP heading their global health program as vice president for Africa, I spearheaded the establishment of a training center in Ghana, known as the Center for Pharmaceutical Advancement and Training, now known as USP Ghana. So living in Maryland, I was tasked to come and head up this center and grow the training programs there. So I spent about 2 to 3 years doing this. So when I left USP to form my own consulting firm, it was only natural, having established linkages in Ghana and kind of felt pretty comfortable in Ghana to establish that consulting firm. And also Ghana is close to Sierra Leone, my home country. It's only a 2-hour plane ride, and also easily accessible to the United States. So it was a good zone. It's a central location for me. I can go home to Sierra Leone and go to the United States readily. So it's a great center for me.
What does being selected as the NatSci Outstanding Alumni Award winner mean to you?
It means a lot to me, but to really understand what it means to me is to understand how I got to Michigan State University from Sierra Leone, or how I almost did not get to Michigan State University. Now, several years ago, I applied for admission, of course, to several institutions in the US. And I was given admission by Michigan State University to join the Department of Chemistry, having scored very well in the graduate record exams, the GRE exams. Unfortunately, I was not able to go to East Lansing to take up this admission because I could not afford a plane ticket to go from Sierra Leone to East Lansing. Then a plane ticket was about $1,000. My parents could not afford that. I looked everywhere. I could not buy a ticket for myself. I was very disappointed, despondent, but I reached out to MSU and spoke to the then chair of the Department of Chemistry. I will not forget that gentleman's name, Professor William Roche, and said, Professor, I really am not able to come because I could not afford a plane ticket. Can you please defer my admission to the other year so that I would see how I could come up with the funds to come? William Roche felt really bad and said, Patrick, unfortunately, we don't have additional assistantship for these kinds of situations, but what we'll do for you is that we will defer your admission to the following year. I, of course, did not know how I was going to bridge that gap, that financial gap, but fortunately, I got another scholarship to go to the University of Aberdeen in Scotland, around the same time. And the Aberdeen scholarship came with an air travel ticket to Aberdeen. So I took up that offer, went to Aberdeen, and of course, I was able to get my own resources from my stipend to take up the appointment in Michigan the following year. So I did a master's degree in analytical chemistry in Aberdeen. And then the following year, I was able to then get myself to East Lansing to start the PhD program in chemistry. So you can see that going from almost not being able to attend grad school to receiving the Meritorious Alumni Award tells the whole story. The bottom line really is that your humble beginning, I hope people will get this, does not determine your future. The hurdles you come across in life are only hurdles. They should not stop your story. As long as you keep your focus on the ball, somehow things will always work out. So this is an exciting opportunity for me to go from almost not being able to attend grad school to now being the recipient of the Meritorious Outstanding Alumni Award. So that's how my story to MSU and what this really means to me is.
Could you highlight some points on how your time at Michigan State helped you to be successful?
Yes, so MSU was, living on campus was actually a very interesting experience for me. As I indicated, I think it was the second country I had visited after leaving Sierra Leone. I went to Scotland for my master's degree before coming to East Lansing. The MSU campus was really a very enriching environment, right, culturally. This is the campus where I experienced the most diversity, right? I've never been in a situation or a society where you have so many different nationalities, ethnic groups, right? I had classmates from China, from India, from Sri Lanka, from other African countries I'd never met even when I was in Africa. So this was almost like a rallying point where where you had this combination of different nationalities, and it helped me to appreciate other people's culture and to appreciate that everyone had brought value to the table, that folks had strength, they had weaknesses, they were just like me. You know, we were all aspiring to be the best we can in our respective fields. So that really helped me in my professional life, because as I led teams, scientific teams at Pfizer or United States Pharmacopoeia, where I hired people from different backgrounds, I could relate to them easily because I'd already grown to respect them. I'd grown to see their value when we were in classrooms and when we were outside of the classroom. So this was a good preparation really for me in the type of career that I ended up, where I needed to work with people from diverse backgrounds and diverse groups. Secondly, MSU also taught me that education was not just happening in the classroom. It was happening outside of the classroom as well. I interacted with American families outside of the classroom. I got to appreciate and value the American culture, the way of life of folks. And also this prepared me because I was able to use my education properly when I started my professional life and really related to people better, not just as, say, a supervisor or a vice president or a manager, but saw the humanity in people. And that prepared me well. And these are things that I will always value. I was, because of the nature of Michigan State University campus, that really prepared me for success in life, not just for success in chemistry, but really success in life.
Do you have any advice you would give to current NatSci students to make the most of their time while at MSU?
First advice is, of course, your primary reason for being there is to gain knowledge, expertise in your field. So you have to take your work seriously, because this time will pass and you'll never get back that opportunity. So as you have this rich culture around you and rich academic excellence, opportunities for academic excellence, take advantage of it. Also learn around your field. If you're in the chemistry department, don't just study chemistry. Understand that the world is a multi-dimensional world, right? While you are gaining skills in chemistry, read around chemistry. I studied analytical chemistry, but fortunately, the programs at Michigan State are such that they prepare you to study around your field. So I did electronics, I did computer programming. And later on in life, I realized that all of these came together for me, because as you enter a place like industry where you need to solve problems, the people that brings the best to the table are people with a good contextual understanding around the field, not just people who are very myopic in one branch of chemistry, say organic chemistry, inorganic, or physical, but people that understood software, programming. They could solve problems and could troubleshoot better. So read around your field. And then thirdly, take advantage of the rich cultural environment at Michigan State University. Get to appreciate other people's culture, understand their culture, because believe me, after grad school, you're going to meet these same type of people again in your work environment. So learn to appreciate and value them so that when you meet them in your professional life, you'd have taken advantage of what you learned about them. So, and then lastly, have fun on campus, learn as much as you can, and remember that your education is really about helping others. As you go through your education, your training, always have at the back of the mind how this education is going to benefit others. How are you going to impact the story of other people? How does your story help bring along others? And I think life is ultimately about that. Because if you cannot do that for others, really, what does it amount to? Just yourself. You have to live above yourself at some point in your career and live for something bigger. And campus life is just preparing you for that, and take up the challenge and be that big image for others.
In closing, what does it mean to you to be a Spartan?
Go green. To be a Spartan is about living the land grant mission of Michigan State University to serve your community, to demonstrate leadership, and to be of service to others. As I indicated, our education is only as good as how we're able to influence others, how we're able to help society. If you cannot apply what you learn to solve problems or to help society, it comes to nothing. So a Spartan is always someone who is out to serve their community, to solve problems in the community, and to help influence the story of others, so that at the end of the day, you can say, I lived for others and I lived above self and lived for the community. So go Spartans, go green, and go white.
It's been great talking with you, Dr. Patrick, and I'd like to thank you for joining me on today's show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks again to Dr. Patrick for joining me on the podcast. Next up, my interview with Shannon Manning. So I am joined by the MSU College of Natural Science 2021 Meritorious Faculty Award winner, Shannon Manning. Shannon, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Could you introduce yourself to our NatSci audience?
Sure. So my name is Shannon Manning, and I am an associate professor in the Department of Microbiology and Molecular Genetics within the College of Natural Science.
Can you talk a little bit about your research and why it's so important to everyday life?
Sure. So I have a really diverse research group, but overall, we are primarily focusing on bacterial pathogens. And so these are bacteria that are capable of causing disease in humans. And we're specifically trying to understand factors that are important for the disease process. And so, excuse me, we're studying foodborne pathogens like E. coli 0157 and Salmonella. And then we're also studying a newborn pathogen called Group B Streptococcus. And so this gets transferred to newborn babies during childbirth. So for each of these pathogens, we are investigating how diverse they are genetically. And so we're using DNA sequencing methods to just really understand the genetic diversity. And we've shown that some pathogens with specific genetic traits are much more likely to cause more severe infections than others. And so once we identify these subgroups of pathogens that cause these more severe infections, we can zoom in to try to figure out what specific mechanisms they might be using. So for example, in our Group B Streptococcus studies, we found that the more virulent strains have unique traits that make them better at attaching to and invading the cells of the placental membranes relative to other strains. And they're also better at evading the normal host immune responses. And so once we identify these mechanisms, then we can begin to think about new treatment strategies or prevention methods that might help in preventing the disease process. And so we don't do this specifically in my lab, but we can recommend new targets, for example, for vaccine development. We've also been investigating where these pathogens are living in nature in an effort to really understand factors that are promoting their survival in these environments. And so we've been doing this a lot for the foodborne pathogens by sampling the environment and important food animals where these pathogens are living and thriving to figure out what might be important for their survival. And so once we can identify these factors, we can then begin to think about new ways to prevent transmission to humans or contamination of food products, for example. And I guess another aspect of my research is in investigating antibiotic resistance in the pathogens themselves. And so we found that some types actually have unique genetic profiles that are much more likely to facilitate acquisition of resistance genes. And these genes are really important because they allow them to resist antibiotics that are used for killing them or treatment of infections. And so we are examining how these genes get transferred between microbial populations, particularly those that are residing in the gut. And this is also referred to as the gut microbiome. And so we know that this collection of microbes is really important for the emergence of new resistant pathogens. Very
cool. So turning now towards the award here, what does being selected as the NatSci Meritorious Faculty Award winner mean to you?
It really means so much. I mean, I feel so honored to be selected. It means a lot to know that people at my university actually think my work is important enough to warrant receipt of such an award. And also that my teaching of some of the topics that I'm teaching is somewhat useful to students. And so I'm just so grateful for the support that I've received here.
During your time at Michigan State, you're not only conducting the cutting edge research that you just described, but you're also spending lots of time mentoring students. Can you talk a little bit about your work with current students?
Thank you. Yeah, over the years, I've just been so lucky to be able to mentor and work closely with so many talented graduate and undergraduate student researchers. Currently in my lab, I have 5 graduate students and 1 undergraduate, and they're all working on different aspects of the projects that I mentioned. And together, they're just a talented group of young scientists. And I know that I could not be as productive in research without all of their hard work and dedication to our projects.
So do you have any advice you would give to current NatSci students to make the most of their time while at MSU?
I guess my advice would be not to stress, particularly over the little things, right? And we all do this, but maybe to focus more on the big picture. I think that the college years should really be a time of growth and a way for students to figure out what they are really passionate about, you know, what interests them and what their future career path might look like. I think that sometimes it's easier to figure out what you don't like or what you don't want to do, but this is also part of that continuous growth and learning process that's actually occurring during these years. And so hopefully it'll allow them to pick the right path when they're done.
That's pretty good advice. So in closing, what does it mean to you to be a Spartan?
Well, since I joined the microbiology and molecular genetics department in 2010, I have always, it's just consistently felt supported by individuals at all different levels at the university. And so this widespread support just really means so much to me. It covers my research, it covers my teaching efforts, and I'm really grateful to be part of this supportive and collaborative environment. I'm also grateful to have the opportunity to work on research projects that I really enjoy and am passionate about, and to interact with a diverse group of students and researchers. And I think collectively, this group makes my projects better, and they really make MSU a great place to work and study.
Fantastic. Well, it's been great talking with you today, Shannon, and I'd like to thank you for joining me on today's show.
And thank you for having me on.
Thanks again to Shannon for joining me on the podcast, and congratulations to all three of you on your awards. And that will wrap up the 6th episode of the NatSci Chronicles. If you'd like to support this podcast, please subscribe and rate us wherever you get your favorite podcast. Be sure to also visit us on the web at natsci.msu.edu/podcast, where in addition to this podcast, you can also find our other podcast, the NatSci News Rewind. If you'd like to keep in touch with us on social, you can find us on Twitter at MSU_NatSci, on Facebook at MSU-CNS, on Instagram at MSU-NatSci, on YouTube at MSU Natural Science, and on LinkedIn, search for Michigan State University College of Natural Science. You can also stay up to date between podcast episodes with everything that's happening in NatSci by visiting our website at natsci.msu.edu. Thanks again for tuning in, and remember, making a difference, it's in our DNA.